Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 4:03 p.m. on the 3rd of December 2024 and gosh, 3 days into December already. Time flies when you're having fun. So I'm late making this video today because I had gas contractors here moving the gas meter out from underneath the house to just at the front of the house. So they were here from 7 till about 3. It was a bit of an ordeal. I mean, not for me, but for them, out there working in the heat. And but it's all done now, and it's all brand spanking new. And they forgot to tell me that they'd lit the pilot light and that the gas was back on. So I went outside and saw they'd left everything very tidy. But I didn't know if the gas was on. I was trying to look for someone to ask, but most of them had left. So I thought, what should I do? And I sort of wandered around in this heat haze, feeling a bit lost and confused. And I thought, Tanya, just go back in the house and light the gas stove. And if it doesn't light, then panic. So I went and did that, and the gas came on immediately. The flame lit up. I was like, oh, thank goodness, that's all done and dusted, and I'm very happy about it. Very happy that that's another job done. And I received a phone call as well, and a new lawn mowing man's coming on Saturday, which I wish he'd come earlier because the grass is growing like mad. But anyway, he's coming without even having given a quote. I think he's going to freak out when he gets there and sees how big the lawn is and how high it is, but not my monkey, not my circus. If he's keen to do it without looking at it properly and giving a proper quote, he must be keen, or they gave him a good price. Anyway, I just hope that doesn't go all right, because then it'll be another week without the lawns mowing, maybe 2, while they find someone. I just can't bear any more garden psychotic dramas. But I'm sure, let's think positive, it'll be fine. The grass will get done on Saturday. Everything will back in equilibrium again, maintaining homeostasis here at Sacred Space, without any freaking out or dramas, and that's how I like things to be. I've got to keep things like a well-oiled machine, everything happening smoothly. What happened here? Got a big pop-up. Are we still filming? Yes, we're still filming. So I just like everything to be done at the appropriate time so I don't stress. Because I seem to stress a lot more as I get older. But also, my grass is phenomenal, and it's a big block of land, so when it gets out of control, it is very stressful and becomes a problem for everyone, including the person that has to do the actual mowing. So anyway, I'm happy. Everything's sorted out. Everything's happening in a far out way. My phone's doing weird things. Let me just flip that off. It won't flip off. Usually when you press the home button. Alright, that's sorted. Fix that now. Right. So, that's enough plutzing. I had another nasty troll complaining about me talking about my personal life, my health issues, wasting their time. You don't have to come to my channel. You don't have to participate. You don't have to watch, you don't have to listen, and you certainly don't need to leave ridiculous trolling comments. It's probably my former friend, because that's just infantile what they do. But anyway, people on the internet with the emotional maturity of a 4-year-old, they just get user hidden, and because I don't have time to devote to your stupidity, just saying. And so on we go, in my own time, on my own channel, with my own ramblings, which, whether I have no subscribers, or whether I currently have 123, which is lovely of you supporting me in my mad ramblings, and even I admit they do get a bit mad. Well, not mad, but odd, like when I start channeling randomly and arguing with unseen entities. That's more concerning than whether I'm talking about my health issues or what have you. But anyway, obviously that person had some fucked up, verkachte sexual fantasy, and all I had to do to enrage them and put them off was say, toefungus. Toefungus. Because, I mean, like, fuck off. Like, seriously. Like, why are you even bothering to write nasty comments to me on my own channel? I'm an autocrat. This is my channel. I say what I want. I express myself how I want. And I meander how I want. If I didn't like it, I'd delete my own videos and not publish them, wouldn't I? You know. Sometimes I think, oh, I can't believe I published that. For the love of all the gods. But at least you get to see me being completely authentic and not pretending to be someone I'm not, and not putting on airs and graces, and just presenting however things get presented. Sometimes my stories that I'm reading to you have been perfectly, without any interruptions, perfectly flowing, and other times they've been spiraling all over the place. And it depends on where I'm at, I guess, with my mental state and how I'm coping with the heat or what have you at any given moment in the space-time continuum. So here we go. We're 7 minutes in. So if you didn't like my little lecture telling you basically to jog along and go be awesome somewhere else, or better yet, why don't you start your own YouTube channel and do your thing for free on the internet for everyone to criticise you, and let's see how well you do. Have you thought about that? No, it's too easy to just come along and aggravate the Tanya. So, children, this is not a channel geared for children, including children in adult form. You can't behave like an adult. Get on your little tricycle and, go play in the middle of the road or something. Dear goddess. So we begin the reading of Charlie. Stop bathing in my water. She did that the other day, didn't she? She's gorgeous, but she's giving me a pain in my ass. But you're a child. You are a child. She actually is probably the mental equivalent of an actual child, though, so we'll cut her some slack, given that she's a birdie and all. We'll allow you to be childlike and mischievous, Charlie. So we're about to begin the 5th voyage of Sinbad the Sailor. What's a voyage, Mummy? It's when you spread your wings and you fly long distances. But you'll never do that because you can't fly. But when the birdies go off on their little ran-tan-tans and don't come back for a long time, it usually means they've gone on some kind of a journey. She goes, okay, Mama, thanks for clarifying that. Right. Know, O my brothers, that when I had been a while on shore after my 4th voyage, and when in my comfort and pleasures and merry makings, and in my rejoicing over my large gains and profits, I had forgotten all I had endured of perils and sufferings. The carnal man was again seized with the longing to travel and to see foreign countries and islands. He really was, he really did have the travel bug, didn't he? It is kind of an addiction, I suppose. Accordingly, they call it having itchy feet. Itchy feet. I met a young man, I'm going to segue, that came, one of the gas contractors, first thing this morning, comes and, explains that, they're going to be noisy and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get it. Anyway, he asked me where I was from, so he picked up on my accent. I said, I'm from New Zealand. So I asked him where he was from, and he was from Chile. I said, I keep meeting people from South America. I said, Brazilians, from Argentina, from Chile, from Mexico. I said, the gods are telling me I need to move to South America. He just kind of stared at me, probably because I said the gods. He just kind of stared at me in astonishment. Well, you haven't lived till you've woken up the psychedelic dreamer at 7 o'clock in the morning and had her go on about the gods and the spirits and my destiny. I wonder though, if I had money, maybe I should go to South America and for a holiday and look around, because that's what the signs are showing me. All these people and encounters from that continent, that part of the world. It's kind of delightful. So he said, you're meeting so many people from South America because so many students are coming to Australia. But no, I'm meeting people of all ages, not just young people. Anyway, he was a nice young man. So carry on. He got the urge to travel again with his itchy feet and his nomadic ways. Accordingly, did you just do a massive poo, Charlie? Yes, you did. Here we go. Riba, underlay. Let's go, babies. Accordingly, I bought costly merchandise suited to my purpose, and making it up into bales, repaired to Basora, where I walked about the river quay till I found a fine, tall ship, newly builded with gear unused and fitted ready for sea. She pleased me, so I bought her. Told you he was getting wealthier and wealthier after each trip. And, embarking my goods in her, hired a master and crew, over whom I set certain of my slaves and servants as inspectors. A number of merchants also brought their outfits and paid me freight and passage money. Then, after reciting the Fatiha, we set sail over Allah's pool in all joy and cheer, promising ourselves a prosperous voyage and much profit. Owning his own ship, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. Indeed, Sinbad the Sailor is now Sinbad the ship owner. We sailed from city to city and from island to island and from sea to sea, viewing the cities and countries by which we passed, and selling and buying, in not a few, till one day we came to a great uninhabited island, deserted and desolate, whereon was a white dome of biggest bulk, half buried in the sands. The merchants landed to examine this dome, leaving me in the ship, and when they drew near, behold, it was a huge ruch's egg. They fell a-beating it with stones, knowing not what it was, and presently broke it open, whereupon much water ran out of it, and the young ruch appeared within. So they pulled it forth of the shell, and cut its throat, and took of it great store of meat. There's going to be consequences for that, babies. Now I was in the ship and knew not what they did. But presently one of the passengers came up to me and said, "Oh my Lord, come and look at the egg we thought to be a dome." So I looked, and seeing the merchants beating it with stones, called out to them, "Stop, stop, do not meddle with that egg, or the bird Ruch will come out and break our ship and destroy us." But they paid no heed to me, and gave not over smiting upon the egg. When behold, the day grew dark and dun, and the sun was hidden from us, as if some great cloud had passed over the firmament. So we raised our eyes and saw that what we took for a cloud was the Ruch poised between us and the sun, and it was his wings that darkened the day. When he came and saw his egg broken, he cried a loud cry, whereupon his mate came flying up, and they both began circling about the ship, crying at us with voices louder than thunder. I called to the reis and crew, "Put out to sea and seek safety in flight before we be all destroyed." Okay, Charlie. So the merchants came on board, and we cast off and made haste from island to gain the open sea. When the Ruth saw this, they flew off, and we crowded all sail on the ship, thinking to get out of their country. But presently the two reappeared and flew after us and stood over us, each carrying in its claws a huge boulder, which, you make me laugh, Charlie, which it had brought from the mountains. As soon as the he-Ruth came up with us, he let fall upon us the rock he held in his pounces. But the master put about ship so that the rock missed her by some small matter, and plunged into the waves with such violence that the ship pitched high and then sank into the trough of the sea, and the bottom of the ocean appeared to us. Holy macaroni. Then the she-Ruch let fall her rock, which was bigger than that of her mate, and as destiny had decreed, it fell on the poop of the ship and crushed it, the rudder flying into 20 pieces, whereupon the vessel foundered, and all and everything on board were cast into the main. As for me, I struggled for sweet life, till Almighty Allah threw in my way one of the planks of the ship, to which I clung, and bestriding it, fell a-paddling with my feet. Now the ship had gone down hard by an island in the midst of the main, and the winds and waves bore me on till, by permission of the Most High, they cast me up on the shore of the island, at the last gasp for toil and distress, and half dead with hunger and thirst. So I landed more like a corpse than a live man, and throwing myself down on the beach, lay there a while till I began to revive and recover spirits, when I walked about the island and found it, as it were, one of the garths and gardens of paradise. Its trees, in abundance dight, bore ripe yellow fruit for freight. Its streams ran clear and bright. Its flowers were fair to scent and to sight. And its birds warbled with delight the praises of him to whom belong permanence and all might. Did you hear that, Charlie? The birdies were warbling in all delight while you were doing weird acrobatics on Mama's hand. So I ate my fill of the fruits and slaked my thirst with the water of the streams till I could no more, and I returned thanks to the Most High and glorified Him, after which I sat till nightfall, hearing no voice and seeing none inhabitant. I think Charlie enjoys it when I read to you guys too. Yes, you do. Oh, yes, you do. You was a lovely bird. Then I lay down, ow, well nigh dead for travail and trouble and terror, and slept without surcease till morning, when I arose and walked about under the trees, till I came to the channel of a draw well fed by a spring of running water, by which well sat an old man of venerable aspect, girt about with a waistcloth made of the fibre of palm fronds. Quoth I to myself, haply this sheikh is one of those who were wrecked in the ship and have made his way to this island. It's a reasonable thing to think, isn't it, Charlie? Yes, it is. So I drew near to him and saluted him, and he returned my salam by signs, but spoke not. And I said to him, O nuncle mine, what causeth thee to sit here? He shook his head and moaned, and signed to me with his hands, as who should say, take me on thy shoulders and carry me to the other side of the well channel. And quoth I in my mind, I will deal kindly with him. Oh! Well, Charlie, I mean, it just never ends, does it? You've done nothing but poop since I brought you out of your cage. Yes, I know. I will deal kindly with him, and you with your poopy habits, and do what he desireth. I missed a bit. It may be I shall win me a reward in heaven, for he may be a paralytic. So I took him on my back, and carrying him to the place whereat he pointed, said to him, dismount at thy leisure. But he would not get off my back, and wound his legs around my neck. I looked at them, and seeing that they were like a buffalo's hide for blackness and roughness, was affrighted and would have cast him off. But he clung to me and gripped my neck with his legs, till I was well nigh choked. The world grew black in my sight, and I fell senseless to the ground like one dead. But he still kept his seat, and raising his legs drummed with his heels, and bet harder than palm rods my back and my shoulders, till he forced me to rise for excess of pain. Then he signed to me with his hand to carry him hither and thither among the trees, which bore the best fruits, and if ever I refused to do his bidding, or loitered and took my leisure, he bet me with his feet more grievously than I had ever been beaten with whips. He ceased not to signal with his hand wherever he was minded to go. So I carried him. I kind of have to laugh in a way. Oh, I don't know why I find that funny, but I just see this mad thought just come over me. So I carried him about the island like a captive slave, and he bepised and conskited my shoulders and back. What does conskited mean? Conskited. I know what skite means. Skited. Having or showing an excessively high opinion of himself. Okay, what does be piss mean? Oh, but I thought to urinate on. And he bepissed and conskited my shoulders and back, dismounting not night nor day. So the moral of that story is don't let random strangers climb on your shoulders and carry them around, am I right? I've got this image. Oh, but it's cool when they do it. It's wonderful when they do it. When my friends in the rock bands occasionally carry one of the gigs back in July, Michael carried Juddy on his shoulders. Juddy's kind of shortish like me. Michael's tall. And he put Juddy up on his shoulders and carried him all around the club. And it was like way cool. And I was like, I approve. I think that's cool. But I mean, there was no pissing or conskiting on Michael's shoulders, just saying. I don't think he would have liked that at all. But anyway, just maybe that's why I suddenly got the giggles. I don't know. But it just drew that image to my mind. But hilarious. So yeah, be careful who you trust to carry on your shoulders. Oh, it's just nuts, but I just have to laugh again. Anyway, dismounting not night nor day, and when as he wished to sleep, he wound his legs about my neck and leaned back and slept a while, then arose and bet me, whereupon I sprang up in haste, unable to gainsay him because of the pain he inflicted on me. And indeed, I blamed myself, and sore repented me of having taken compassion on him, and continued in this condition, suffering fatigue not to be described, till I said to myself, I wrought him a weal, and he requited me with my ill. By Allah, never more will I do any man a service, so long as I live. And again I besought the Most High that I might die, for stress of weariness and misery. and thus I abode a long while, till one day I came with him to a place wherein was abundance of gourds, many of them dry. I mean, curious minds want to know, if you've got some idiot with their legs wrapped around you, choking you and passing, why didn't he just throw him on the ground and roll over and kick him in the head or something? Why did he tolerate that for as long as he did? It's a bit odd, isn't it? Anyway, here's the story. I mean, it is meant to be a fairy story for people out there. The metaphor is about trust and respect and duty of care and body autonomy, defending your own rights by the goddess. Football tickets and donuts come to mind. Or did they have a ride while they wrangled you by the neck till you were almost dead? But that wasn't funny either, but oh well, you know. Some people like being ridden into the ground. They get, some kind of sexual satisfaction from it. It's all a bit perverted, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Have you tried saying no lately? If you just say, hell no, I won't go. But anyway, you have to kind of see the absurdity of it all, really. Now, where was I? They came to an abundance of gourds, many of them dry gourds. So I took a great dry gourd and, cutting open the head, scooped out the inside and cleaned it. After which I gathered grapes from a vine which grew hard by and squeezed them into the gourd till it was full of the juice. Then I stopped up the mouth and set it in the sun, where I left it for some days until it became strong wine, and every day I used to drink of it to comfort and sustain me under my fatigues from that froward and obstinate fiend. And as often as I drank myself drunk, I forgot my troubles and took a new heart. So the fiend drove him to drink, is what he's saying. That's all it took. Just riding him, wrapping his legs around him, making him take him everywhere. Sounds a bit like marriage, doesn't it? Oh dear goddess. Well, anyway, it's hot and I'm going off in the heat, people are there. I get like this, don't mind me. Don't mind me. One day, he saw me drinking and signed to me with his hand as who should say, "What is that?" Quoth I, "'Tis an excellent cordial which cheereth the heart and reviveth the spirits." Then, being heated with wine, I ran and danced with him among the trees, clapping my hands and singing and making merry, and I staggered under him by design. When he saw this, he signed to me to give him the gourd that he might drink, and I fed him and gave it to him. So he took it, and draining it to the dregs, cast it on the ground, whereupon he grew frolicsome and began to clap hands and jig to and fro on my shoulders, and he made water upon me so copiously that all my dress was drenched. It's just rude, isn't it? Very rude. It's a bit like Charlie. But she gets away with it because she's, a bird that has no cooth. But any other fiend would be in big, big trouble by the goddess. But presently, the fumes of the wine rising to his head, he became helplessly drunk, and his side muscles and limbs, just pulled out yet another feather, dear goddess, and his side muscles and limbs relaxed, and he swayed to and fro on my back. When I saw that he had lost his senses for drunkenness, I put my hand to his legs and, loosing them from my neck, stooped down well nigh to the ground and threw him at full length. I threw the devil off my shoulders, hardly crediting my deliverance from him, and fearing lest he should shake off his drunkenness and do me a mischief. Then I took up a great stone from among the trees and coming up to him, smote him therewith on the head with all my might, and crushed in his skull as he lay dead drunk. Thereupon, his flesh and fat and blood being in a pulp, he died and went to his deserts, the fire. No mercy of Allah be upon him. I then returned with a heart at ease to my former station on the seashore, and abode in that island many days, eating of its fruits and drinking of its waters, and keeping a lookout for passing ships, till one day, as I sat on the beach, recalling all that had befallen me, and saying, I wonder if Allah will save me alive and restore me to my home and family and friends. Behold, a ship was making for the island through the dashing sea and clashing waves. Presently it cast anchor, and the passengers landed. So I made for them, and when they saw me, all hastened up to me, and gathering round me, questioned me of my case, and how I came thither. I told them all that had betided me, whereat they marvelled with exceeding marvel, and said, He who rode on thy shoulder is called the Sheikh al-Bahr, or Old Man of the Sea, and none ever felt his legs on neck, and came off alive, but thou. And those who die under him he eateth. So praised be Allah for thy safety. Then they set somewhat of food before me, whereof I ate my fill, and gave me somewhat of clothes, wherewith I clad myself anew, and covered my nakedness. After which they took me up into the ship, and we sailed days and nights, till fate brought us to a place called the City of Apes, builded with lofty houses, all of which gave upon the sea, and had a single gate studded and strengthened with iron nails. Now, every night, as soon as it is dusk, the dwellers in the city used to come forth of the gates, and putting out to sea in boats and ships, pass the night upon the waters in their fear lest the apes should come down on them from the mountains. Hearing this, I was sore troubled, remembering what I had before suffered from the ape kind. You'd think he'd learn, wouldn't you? By the gods. Honestly. Presently I landed to solace myself in the city, but meanwhile the ship set sail without me, and I repented of having gone ashore, and calling to mind my companions and what had befallen me with the apes, first and after, sat down and fell a-weeping and lamenting. Presently one of the townsfolk accosted me and said to me, O my lord, meseemeth thou art a stranger to these parts. Yes, answered I am indeed a stranger and a poor one, who came hither in a ship which cast anchor here, and I landed to visit the town. But when I would have gone on board again, I found they had sailed without me. Quoth he, Come and embark with us, for if thou lie the night in the city, the apes will destroy thee. Hearkening and obedience, replied I, and, rising, straightway embarked with him in one of the boats, whereupon they pushed off from shore, and, anchoring a mile or so from the land, there passed the night. At daybreak they rowed back to the city, and landing, went each about his business. Thus they did every night, for if any tarried in the town by night, the apes came down on him and slew him. As soon as it was day, I just had a funny thought. I've got a sign that I made for my home and garden. On one side it says sacred space, no hawkers, no trespassers, no proselytizers, no trespassers. In other words, fuck off equally to everyone. And I've got little symbols of protection on it as well, because I'm weird like that. And then on the back of the sign, I put true, authentic love, welcome here. So at Halloween, whenever I put on Halloween for the neighbourhood kids, my sacred space, no hawkers, no one welcome here, without my permission, I turn the sign around and I face the nice one saying, true, authentic love, welcome here, which is basically saying the same thing. Everyone can fuck off except those with pure loving intentions. But I put it out at Halloween time because it scares them more that I've got this welcome to the witchy, scary house, I just had a funny thought. After Halloween, I flipped the sign back over to sacred space, everyone stay away. And when I closed the gate, the sign was flipped the other way, so it said, true, authentic love, welcome here. And so I only just clicked on, so I was laughing. One of the workmen must have seen it and thought, oh, that's hilarious. I'll play a trick on her and I'll flip the sign over to, we all love you, baby. Yeah, I just had this one giggling. And that's kind of cute that they did that. I only just realised, I was like, oh, because when I saw it, why is that facing that way? It's meant to be the other one. And for a moment I thought, did I forget to flip it over after Halloween? But I didn't forget. It's taken me all this time, just over an hour, to click on that they played with my sign. Oh, cute. Well, obviously one of them has a cheeky sense of humour like I have. So it's all good, babies. At daybreak they rowed back to the city, and landing, went each about his business. Thus they did every night. For if any tarried in the town by night, the apes came down on him and slew him. That means murdered him. As soon as it was day, I kind of have to laugh. As soon as it was day, the apes left the place and ate of the fruits of the gardens, then went back to the mountains and slept there till nightfall, when they again came down upon the city. Yes, Charlie, Bobo's in heaven. Now this place was in the farthest part of the country of the blacks, and one of the strangest things that befell me during my sojourn in the city was on this wise. One of the company with whom I passed the night in the boat asked me, O my lord, thou art apparently a stranger in these parts. Hast thou any craft whereat thou canst work? And I answered, By Allah, O my brother, I have no trade, nor know I any handicraft. For I was a merchant, and a man of money and substance, and had a ship of my own, laden with great store of goods and merchandise. But it foundered at sea, and all were drowned excepting me, who saved myself on a piece of plank, which Allah vouchsafed to me of his favour. Why, I wonder why he didn't tell them that he knows how to make saddles. I mean, that's kind of a trade or useful thing to know. Anyway, we'll carry on with the story. Upon this, he brought me a cotton bag, and giving it to me said, Take this bag and fill it with pebbles from the beach, and go forth with a company of the townsfolk, to whom I will give a charge respecting thee. Do as they do, and belike thou shalt gain what may further thy return voyage to thy native land. Then he carried me to the beach, where I filled my bag with pebbles, large and small. By carried, I think he means led there by his hand, not physically carried him. Unlike the man of the sea that he was being tortured by. Anyway. Then he carried me to the beach, where I filled my bag with pebbles large and small, and presently we saw a company of folk issue from the town, each bearing a bag like mine filled with pebbles. To these he committed me, commending me to their care, and saying, This man is a stranger, so take him with you, and teach him how to gather, that he may get his daily bread, and you will earn your reward and recompense in heaven. On our head and eyes be it, answered they, and bidding me welcome, fared on with me till we came to a spacious wadi, full of lofty trees with trunks so smooth that none might climb them. Now sleeping under these trees were many apes, which when they saw us rose and fled from us, and swarmed up among the branches, whereupon my companions began to pelt them with what they had in their bags, and the apes fell to plucking of the fruit of the trees, and casting them at the folk. I looked at the fruits they cast at us, and I found them to be Indian or cocoa nuts. So I chose out a great tree full of apes, and going up to it, began to pelt them with stones, and they in turn pelted me with nuts, which I collected, as did the rest, so that even before I'd made an end of my bag full of pebbles, I'd gotten great plenty of nuts. And as soon as my companions had in like manner gotten as many nuts as they could carry, we returned to the city, where we arrived at the fag end of day. A fag can be a small stick, or it's slang for a cigarette, but I just want to know what fag end means. British, a cigarette end, so it meant what I thought it meant. The last part or very end of something, the fag end of a rope, the unfinished end of a piece of cloth, remnant. Alright, it's kind of what I thought, but I had to be certain, people, of it. I like to be certain about things. Hate not knowing, being left in suspense, or being played for a fucking gimp. That will only go for so long, people. Then I get very, very pissed off. Then I went to the kindly man who had brought me in company with the nut gatherers, and gave him all I had gotten, thanking him for his kindness. But he would not accept them, saying, "Sell them and make profit by the price." And presently he added, giving me the key of a closet in his house, "Store thy nuts in this safe place, and go thou forth every morning and gather them as thou hast done today, and choose out the worst for sale in supplying thyself, but lay up the rest here, so haply thou mayest collect enough to serve thee for thy return home." "Allah requite thee," answered I, and did as he advised me, going out daily with the coconut gatherers, who commended me to one another and showed me the best stocked trees. Just very kind of them. Thus did I for some time, till I had laid up great store of excellent nuts, besides a large sum of money, the price of those I had sold. I became thus at my ease, and bought all I saw and had a mind to, and passed my time pleasantly, greatly enjoying my stay in the city, till, as I stood on the beach one day, a great ship steering through the heart of the sea presently cast anchor by the shore, and landed a company of merchants, who proceeded to sell and buy and barter their goods for coconuts and other commodities. Then I went to my friend and told him of the coming of the ship, and how I had a mind to return to my own country, and he said, "'Tis for thee to decide." So I thanked him for his bounties, and took leave of him. Then, going to the captain of the ship, I agreed with him for my passage, and embarked my coconuts, and what else I possessed. We weighed anchor the same day, and sailed from island to island and sea to sea, and whenever we stopped, I sold and traded with my coconuts, and the Lord requited me more than I erst had lost. Erst had and lost. Amongst other places, we came to an island abounding in cloves and cinnamon and pepper. And the country people told me that by the side of each pepper bunch groweth a great leaf, which shadeth it from the sun, and casteth the water off it in the wet season. But when the rain ceaseth, the leaf turneth over, and droopeth down by the side of the bunch. Here I took in great store of pepper and cloves and cinnamon, in exchange for coconuts, and we passed thence to the island of Al-Usirat, whence cometh the Comoran aloes wood, and thence to another island, 5 days' journey in length, where grows the Chinese lean aloes, which is better than the Comoran. No idea what that is. Let me Google. Google is my friend. Start that again. I don't know what happened there. Comorin. Meaning. Cape on the southern tip of India. But here it seems to be a description of something else. Let me have a look again. What is the meaning of Comoran? That's all it's got. So, Comoran. So that must be the name of the town, the region. Southernmost tip of India. Aloe wood. But the Chinese is better, apparently. But the people of this island are fouler of condition and religion than those of the other. For that, they love fornication and wine-bibbing, and know not prayer, nor call to prayer. Well, they're worshipping the gods in a completely earthly way in other ways. Who am I to judge? Thence we came to the pearl fisheries, and I gave the divers some of my cocoa nuts and said to them, "Dive for my luck and lot." They did so, and brought up from the deep bight great store of large and priceless pearls. And they said to me, "By Allah, O my master, thy luck is a lucky." Then we sailed on, with the blessing of Allah, whose name be exalted, and ceased not sailing till we arrived safely at Basora. There I abode a little, and then went on to Baghdad, where I entered my quarter and found my house and foregathered with my family, and saluted my friends who gave me joy of my safe return, and I laid up all my goods and valuables in my storehouses. Then I distributed alms and largesse, and clothed the widow and the orphan, and made presents to my relations and comrades. For the Lord had requited me fourfold that I had lost. After which I returned to my old merry way of life, and forgot all I had suffered in the great profit and gain I had made. Such, then, is the history of my 5th voyage and its wonderments. And now to supper, and tomorrow come again, and I will tell you what befell me in my 6th voyage, for it was still more wonderful than this, saith he who telleth the tale. Then he called for food, and the servants spread the table, and when they had eaten the evening meal, he bade give Sinbad the porter 100 golden dinars, and the landsman returned home and lay him down to sleep, much marvelling at all he had heard. Next morning, as soon as it was light, he prayed the dawn prayer, and after blessing Mohammed, the cream of all creatures, betook himself to the house of Sinbad the Sailor, and wished him a good day. The merchant bade him sit and talked with him till the rest of the company arrived. Then the servants spread the table, and when they had well eaten and drunken, and were mirthful and merry, Sinbad the Sailor began in these words the narrative of the 6th voyage of Sinbad the Sailor. And we're only 58 minutes in, so this was shorter than the other voyages. So we'll continue on with the 6th and perhaps even the 7th if I'm not too tired, depending how much video I have left on because this laptop only films for 3 hours. So it is what it is. I still haven't resolved my storage issues with my iPhone, which sucks big, epic, heavy, sweaty, hairy balls, but I give up. I just give up. It's too hard. I'm too old. I'm too tired. And but all my notes were restored to me, so I was able to continue with my book, for want of a better word. And so I'm happy about that. That was one good thing. Came back to me randomly out of nowhere after it all being deleted off my iPhone. I don't understand how that happens. How things just disappear and reappear weeks later. It's odd. But you know, our AI overlords probably got something to do with it, maybe. Who knows? I don't understand how things can just vanish and reappear as if by magic. So I've saved a copy of it to Word, so hopefully it won't get lost quite so easily this time. Dear Goddess. But then saving it to Word, I was unable to save all the photos that I had attached to it, so it's going to be a bit of wrangling, but Mama T will get there with persistence and perseverance and stamina and willpower alone. And then the plan is I want to get it published on Amazon, present it to all my friends in the bands. But I don't know, I have to think about that, because it's all my spiritual and personal philosophising. They probably won't enjoy that. But it's also got mainly, talking about my nights out and all the funny things that happened in my nights out. So they would enjoy that, since they're part of that culture and that scene. They know how crazy it used to get at the casino when I danced there for 12 years. By the gods, did it get crazy at times. But we had fun, and that's the most important thing. So we now begin the 6th voyage of Sinbad the Sailor. Know, O my brothers and friends and companions all, that I abode some time after my return from my 5th voyage, in great solace and satisfaction, and mirth and merriment, joyance and enjoyment, and I forgot what I had suffered, seeing the great gain and profit I had made, till one day I sat making merry and enjoying myself with my friends. There came into me a company of merchants, whose case told tales of travel, and talked with me of voyage and adventure and greatness of pelf and lucre. Hereupon I remembered the days of my return from abroad, and my joy at once more seeing my native land and foregathering with my family and my friends, and my soul yearned for travel and traffic. Meanwhile, Charlie's sitting here quietly ripping out feathers, going, ooh, ooh. Birdie tricholotomania. It's intense, people. It's intense, Charlie. She's very happy. So, compelled by fate and fortune, I resolved to undertake another voyage, and buying me fine and costly merchandise, meat for foreign trade, made it up into bales, with which I journeyed from Baghdad to Bassorah. Here I found a great ship ready for sea, and full of merchants and notables, who had with them goods of price. So I embarked my bales therein, and we left Bassorah in safety and good spirits, under the safeguard of the King, the Preserver. We continued our journey from place to place, and from city to city, buying and selling and profiting and diverting ourselves with the sight of countries where strange folk dwell. And fortune and the voyage smiled upon us, till one day, as we went along, behold, the captain suddenly cried with a great cry, and cast his turban on the deck. Then he buffeted his face like a woman, and plucked out his beard, and fell down in the waist of the ship, well nigh fainting for stress of grief and rage, and crying, "Oh, and alas, for the ruin of my house and the orphanship of my poor children!" So all the merchants and sailors came round about him and asked him, "O master, what is the matter?" For the light had become night before their sight. And he answered, saying, "Know, O folk, that we have wandered from our course, and left the sea whose ways we wot, and come unto a sea whose ways I know not, and unless Allah vouchsafe us a means of escape, we are all dead men. Wherefore pray ye to the Most High, that he deliver us from this strait. Haply amongst you is one righteous, whose prayers the Lord will accept. Then he arose and climbed the mast to see, and there were any escape from that strait, and he would have loosed the sails. But the wind redoubled upon the ship, and whirled her round thrice, and drave her backwards, whereupon her rudder broke a break, and she fell off towards a high mountain. With this, the captain came down from the mast, saying, There is no majesty, and there is no might save in Allah, the glorious, the great. Nor can man prevent that which is foreordained by fate. What say you, Charlie? By Allah, we are fallen on a place of sure destruction, and there is no way of escape for us, nor can any of us. I knew she was going to do that. She was twiddling her tail. You were twiddling your tail? Like one about to twiddle and fiddle and do the piddle. I know. By Allah, we are fallen in a place of sure destruction, and there is no way of escape for us, nor can any of us be saved, Charlie. Then we all fell a weeping over ourselves and bidding one another farewell, for that our days were come to an end, and we had lost all hopes of life. Presently the ship struck the mountain and broke up, and all and everything on board of her were plunged into the sea. Ow! Don't be a mean bird. Some of the merchants were drowned, and others made shift to reach the shore and save themselves upon the mountain, I amongst the number. And when we got ashore, we found a great island, or rather peninsula, whose base was strewn with wreckage of crafts and goods and gear cast up by the sea from broken ships, whose passengers had been drowned, and the quantity confounded compte, and calculation. What? So I climbed the cliffs into the inward of the isle. Turn the other way, Charlie. Twitching tail means, you know what that means. There we go. She's going to do it. She's going to do it. Oh, Bobo's in heaven, Charlie. So where was I? So I climbed the cliffs into the inward of the isle and walked on inland till I came to a stream of sweet water that welled up at the nearest foot of the mountains and disappeared, in the earth under the range of hills on the opposite side. Mean bird, savage bird, nasty bird. But all the other passengers went over the mountains to the inner tracts, and dispersing hither and thither, were confounded at what they saw, and became like madmen at the sight of the wealth and treasures wherewith the shores were strewn. As for me, I looked into the bed of the stream aforesaid, and saw therein great plenty of rubies. Oh, who doesn't like rubies? I love rubies. And great royal pearls. I love pearls too. And all kinds of jewels and precious stones, which were as gravel in the bed of the rivulets that ran through the fields. and the sands sparkled and glittered with gems and precious ores. Moreover, we found in the island abundance of the finest lean aloes, both Chinese and Comoran, and there also is a spring of crude ambergris, which floweth like wax or gum over the stream banks for the great heat of the sun, and runneth down to the seashore, where the monsters of the deep come up and, swallowing it, return into the sea. But it burneth in their bellies, so they cast it up again, and it congealeth on the surface of the water, whereby its colours and quantities are changed, and at last the waves cast it ashore, and the travellers and merchants who know it collect it and sell it. But as to the raw ambergris which is not swallowed, it floweth over the channel, and congealeth on the banks, and when the sun shineth on it, it melteth and scenteth the whole belly with a musk-like fragrance. Then, when the sun ceaseth from it, it congealeth again. But none can get to this place where is the crude ambergris, because of the mountains which enclose the island on all sides, and which foot of man cannot ascend. We continued thus to explore the island, marvelling at the wonderful works of Allah and the riches we found there, but sore troubled for our own case and dismayed at our prospects. Now we had picked up on the beach some small matter of victual from the wreck, and husbanded it carefully, eating but once every day or two, in our fear lest it should fail us, and we die miserably of famine or of fright. Moreover, we were weak for colic brought on by seasickness and low diet, and my companions deceased, one after other, till there was but a small company of us left. Each that died we washed and shrouded in some of the clothes and linen cast ashore by the tides, and after a little the rest of my fellows perished, one by one, till I had buried the last of the party and abode alone on the island, with but a little provision left, I who was wont to have so much. And I wept over myself, saying, would heaven I had died before my companions, and they had washed and buried me. It had been better than I should perish, and none wash me and shroud me and bury me. But there is majesty, and there is no might save in Allah, the glorious, the great. Here's a picture of the captain saying there was no escape for us and we're all doomed to die, basically. Freaking out as you do when you've just reached that conclusion. Now, after I had buried the last of my party and abode alone on the island, I arose and dug me a deep grave on the seashore, saying to myself, when as I grow weak and know that death cometh to me, I will cast myself into the grave and die there, so the wind may drift the sand over me and cover me, and I be buried therein. Then I fell to approaching myself for my little wit in leaving my native land, and betaking me again to travel, After all I had suffered during my first 5 voyages, and when I had not made a single one without suffering more horrible perils and more terrible hardships than its forerunner, and having no hope of escape from my present stress, and I repented me of my folly and bemoaned myself, especially as I had no need of money, seeing that I had enough, and more than enough, and could not spend what I had, no, nor a half of it, in all of my life. However, after a while, Allah sent me a thought, and I said to myself, by God, needs must the stream have an end as well as a beginning, ergo, an issue somewhere, and be like its course, may lead to some inhabited place. So my best plan is to make me a little boat, big enough to sit in, and carry it, and launching it on the river, embark therein and drop down the stream. If I escape by God's leave, and if I perish, better die in the river than here. Then, sighing for myself, I set to work collecting a number of pieces of Chinese and Comoran aloes wood, and I bound them together with ropes from the wreckage. Then I chose out from the broken up ships straight planks of even size, and fixed them firmly upon the aloes wood, making me a boat raft a little narrower than the channel of the stream, and I tied it tightly and firmly, as though it were nailed. Then I loaded it with the goods, precious ores and jewels, and the union pearls which were like gravel, and the rest of the ambergris, crude and pure, together with what I had collected on the island, and what was left me of victual and wild herbs. Lastly, I lashed a piece of wood on either side to serve me as oars, and launched it, and embarking, did according to the saying of the poet, fly, fly with life whenas evils threat, leave the house to tell of its builder's fate, land after land shalt thou seek and find, but no other life on thy wish shall wait. Fret not thy soul and thy thoughts o' night, all woes shall end, or sooner or late. Whoso is born in one land to die, there and only there shall gang his gate, nor trust great things to another wight. Soul hath only soul, the confederate. My boat raft drifted with the stream, I pondering the issue of my affair, and the drifting ceased not till I came to the place where it disappeared beneath the mountain. I rowed my conveyance into the place, which was intensely dark, and the current carried the raft with it down the underground channel. The thin stream bore me on through a narrow tunnel where the raft touched either side, and my head rubbed against the roof, return therefrom being impossible. Then I blamed myself for having thus risked my life, and said, if this passage grow any straighter, the raft will hardly pass, and I cannot turn back, so I shall inevitably perish miserably in this place. And I threw myself down upon my, hang on a sec, just got to deal with something here. And I threw myself down upon my face on the raft, by reason of the narrowness of the channel, whilst the stream ceased not to carry me along, knowing not from night, knowing not night from day, for the excess of the gloom which encompassed me about, and my terror and concern for myself, lest I should perish. And in that condition my course continued down the channel, which now grew wide and then straighter still, sore, aweary by reason of the darkness which could be felt. I fell asleep as I lay prone on the raft, and I slept knowing not an the time were long or short. Interesting. When I awoke at last, I found myself in the light of heaven, and opening my eyes, I saw myself in a broad stream, and the raft moored to an island in the midst of a number of Indians and Abyssinians. As soon as these blackamoors saw that I was awake, they came up to me and bespoke me in their speech, but I understood not what they said, and thought that it was a dream and a vision which had betided me for stress of concern and chagrin. But I was delighted at my escape from the river. When they saw I understood them not, and made them no answer, one of them came forward and said to me in Arabic, Peace be with thee, O my brother. Who art thou, and whence faredst thou thither? How camest thou into this river? And what manner of land lies behind yonder mountains? For never knew we any one make his way thence to us. Quoth I, And upon thee be peace, and the ruth of Allah and his blessing. Who are ye, and what country is this? O my brother, answered he, we are Humbards. It's driving me nuts because my Hebrew name is Ruth Tanya. So I want to know what they mean there by Ruth, because ruthless means cruel and vicious. So Ruth must mean something along the lines of peaceful, kind, sweet, honouring. I've never heard it used as a descriptor before. Archaic. A feeling of pity, distress, or grief. Well, that'd be right. If I can get named something awful. Oh, well, anyway, I was named after the, Ruth, who was, the great grandmother of King David and married Boaz and was a Moabite woman, was the first convert, Jewish convert. Well, maybe not the first Jewish convert, but she was a Moabite woman, the great grandmother of King David. Yes, so what did they say again? It means friend, friendship, or compassionate one. But in slang, it means self-reproach, contrition, remorse, compassion for the misery of another, sorrow for one's own faults, remorse. Can also mean tender, full of sorrow or causing sorrow, ruthful means. In Middle English it meant to rue, to feel regret, remorse or sorrow. Well, that's nice. All this time I didn't know they'd given me a name, which meant sorrow. Did I have sorrow as a Jew in this Brisbane Jewish community? Nothing but the most awful sorrow they put upon me, including 3 strangulations by Israeli and or Jewish lovers. What the actual fuck, babies. But anyway, it's my Hebrew name. I did change it slightly by adding Tanya to it. You do that, you can choose a second or a third name after having come close to death. So after one of my near deaths, I reclaimed my name Tanya. And when I announced it in the temple, Root Tanya, all the teenage boys burst out laughing. Thought it was something dirty. So you can't win, can you? You just can't win. But anyway, it is what it is, babies. What's in a name? Anyway. I lost my part. We lost our part, people. Got distracted there. Have to find where we went to the word ruthful. Peace be upon thou, blah, 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 blah. How did you come to us? Let's go back to that. And quoth I, and upon thee be peace, Ahuia, and the ruth of Allah. Remorse of Allah? I think here they probably mean compassion of Allah and his blessing. Who are ye, and what country is this? O my brother, answered he, we are husbandmen and tillers of the soil, who came out to water our fields and plantations, and, finding thee asleep on this raft, laid hold of it and made it fast by us, against thou shouldst awake at thy leisure. So tell us how thou camest hither. I answered, for Allah's sake, O my Lord, ere I speak, give me somewhat to eat, for I am starving, and after ask me what thou wilt. So he hastened to fetch me food, and I ate my fill, till I was refreshed, and my fear was calmed by a good bellyful, and my life returned to me. Then I rendered thanks to the Most High for mercies great and small, glad to be out of the river and rejoicing to be amongst them, and I told them all my adventures from first to last, especially my troubles in the narrow channel. When I landed and found myself amongst the Indians and Abyssinians and had taken some rest, they consulted among themselves and said to one another, there is no help for it, but we carry him with us and present him to our king, that he may acquaint him with his adventures. So they took me, together with the raft boat and its lading of moneys and merchandise, jewels, minerals, and golden gear, and brought me to their king, who was king of Sarandib, telling him what had happened, whereupon he saluted me and bade me welcome. Then he questioned me of my condition and adventures through the man who had spoken Arabic, and I repeated to him my story from beginning to end, whereat he marvelled exceedingly and gave me joy of my deliverance, after which I arose and fetched from the raft great store of precious ores and jewels and ambergris and lean aloes, and presented them to the king, who accepted them and entreated me with the utmost honour, appointing me a lodging in his own palace. So I consorted with the chief of the islanders, and they paid me the utmost respect, and I quitted not the royal palace. Now the island Sarandib lieth excuse me, under the equinoctial line, its night and day both numbering 12 hours. It measureth 80 leagues long by a breadth of 30, and its width is bounded by a lofty mountain and a deep valley. The mountain is conspicuous from a distance of 3 days, and it containeth many kinds of rubies and other minerals, and spice trees of all sorts. That was him bowing and saluting King Sarandib. The surface is covered with emery wherewith jewels are cut and fashioned. Diamonds are in its rivers and pearls are in its valleys, which is a bit odd since pearls come from the ocean, but suspend belief, people of earth. I ascended, it comes specifically from Westers, I ascended that mountain and solaced myself with a view of its marvels which are indescribable, and afterwards I returned to the king. Thereupon all the travellers and merchants who came to the place questioned me of the affairs of my native land and of the Caliph Harun al-Rashid and his rule, and I told them of him and of that wherefore he was renowned, and they praised him because of this, whilst I in turn questioned them of the manners and customs of their own countries, and got the knowledge I desired. One day the king himself asked me of the fashions and form of government of my country, and I acquainted him with the circumstance of the Caliph's sway in the city of Baghdad, and the justice of his rule. The king marvelled at my account of his appointments, and said, By Allah, the Caliph's ordinances are indeed wise, and his fashions of praiseworthy guise, and thou hast made me love him by what thou tellest me, wherefore I have a mind to make him a present, and send it by thee. Quoth I, Hearkening and obedience, O my lord, I will bear thy gift to him, and inform him that thou art his sincere lover and true friend. Lover in the agape, holistic sense, people of earth. Well, you never know, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was in that other sense too, but it's a strange rendering of the language, that's all I have to say about that. Then I abode with the king in great honour and regard and consideration, for a long while, till one day, as I sat in his palace, I heard news of a company of merchants that were fitting out a ship for Basora, and said to myself, I cannot do better than voyage with these men. So I rose without stay or delay, and kissed the king's hand, and acquainted him with my longing to set out with the merchants, for that I pined after my people and mine own land. Quoth he, Thou art thine own master, yet, if it be thy will to abide with us, on our head and eyes be it, for thou gladdenest us with thy company. By Allah, O my Lord, answered I, thou hast indeed overwhelmed me with thy favours and well-doings, but I weary for a sight of my friends and family and native country. When he heard this, he summoned the merchants in question and commended me to their care, paying my freight and passage money. Then he bestowed on me great riches from his treasuries, and charged me with a magnificent present for the Caliph Harun al-Rashid. Moreover, he gave me a sealed letter, saying, Carry this with thine own hand to the commander of the faithful, and give him many salutations from us. Hearing and obedience, I replied. The missive was written on the skin of the hawi, which is finer than lamb parchment and of yellow colour. I don't know what a hawi is. Shall we have a look if they render what that is? It's just coming up with basketball players. Well, I want to know what it means. I don't want to look at basketball players. Oh dear goddess. I abhor sport. Find it primitive and pointless. See, I take no delight in it. Hawi in English. Doesn't say. What does Hawi mean? Try this one. Doesn't give the meanings. What good is that? Hate that when that happens. I guess Hawi means Hawi. That's all we're going to know about that. We shall forever not know. We'll grind my gears. I'll have nightmares tonight. But it is what it is. No. Now I've got to find my place. Got confused looking for what on earth a hawi is. On the skin of the hawi. It must be some kind of animal, like a bit of finer than lamb, parchment, and of yellow colour. A gazelle, antelope, some kind of goat. With ink of ultramarine, and the contents were as follows. Peace be with thee from the king of Al-Hind, which is India, before whom are 1,000 elephants, and upon whose palace crenelles are 1,000 jewels. But after Lord, L-A-U-D, to the Lord, capital L-O-R-D. Lord to the Lord, and praises to his prophet. We send thee a trifling gift, which be thou pleased to accept. Thou art to us a brother and a sincere friend, and great is the love we bear for thee in heart. Favour us therefore with a reply. The gift besitteth not thy dignity, but we beg of thee, O our brother, graciously to accept it, and peace be with thee. And the present was a cup of ruby, a span high. The inside, by a span I think they would mean the span of your hand. I'm assuming that, not sure. I'm assuming. The span high, the inside of which was adorned with precious pearls, and a bed covered with the skin of the serpent which swalloweth the elephant. Which skin hath spots each like a dinar, and whoso sitteth upon it never sickeneth. And 100,000 mescals of Indian lean aloes, and a slave girl like a shining moon. Then I took leave of him, and of all my intimates and acquaintances in the island, and embarked with the merchants aforesaid. We sailed with a fair wind, committing ourselves to the care of Allah, be he extolled and exalted, and by his permission arrived at Basora, where I passed a few days and nights, equipping myself and packing up my bales. Then I went on to Baghdad city, the house of peace, where I sought an audience of the Caliph, and laid the king's presence before him. He asked me whence they came, and I said to him, By Allah, O Commander of the Faithful, I know not the name of the city, nor the way thither. He then asked me, O Sinbad, is this true which the king writeth? And I answered, after kissing the ground, O my lord, I saw in his kingdom much more than he hath written in this letter. For state processions a throne is set for him upon a huge elephant, 11 cubits high, and upon this he sitteth, having his great lords and officers and guests standing in 2 ranks, on his right side and on his left. At his head is a man hending in hand a golden javelin, and behind him another with a great mace of gold, whose head is an emerald, a span long, and as thick as a man's thumb. Oh, that sounds fabulous, doesn't it? And when he mounteth horse, there mount with him 1,000 horsemen clad in gold brocade and silk. And as the king proceedeth, a man precedeth him, crying, This is the king of great dignity, of high authority. And he continueth to repeat his praises in words I remember not, saying at the end of his panegyric, I don't know how to even pronounce that word, I don't know what it means, panegyric. Soliloquy, I don't know, let me, I'm getting tired, people of earth, by the gods, I can't even find my way to safari. How do you find safari when you're too tired to go on safari to find safari, and yet mysteriously you do it because You're a bizarre genius, even for an old lady. Panegyric. A public speech or published text in praise of someone or something. Let's find out how to pronounce
Panegyric.
Panegyric. Panegyric, people of Earth. By the gods.
Stop what you're doing.
Good Gut Black Friday sale is on now.
No.
Don't miss the deals in store
Wrong.
and
We
online.
don't want that one. Dear goddess. Well, anyway, in praise of someone. See, I had a feeling it was something to do like a soliloquy or some kind of verbiage. Saying at the end of his panegyric, I won't remember it 5 minutes from now, you know this, don't you? This is what I have remembered the word Barmer seed though, because I had to keep going back to it till it stuck in my brain. A disappointing delusion, like my love life. Maybe not so disappointing, but oh well. This is the king owning the crown, whose like nor Solomon nor the Miraj ever possessed. Then he is silent, and one behind him proclaimeth, saying, He will die. Again I say, He will die. And the other added, Extolled be the perfection of the living who dieth not. Moreover, by reason of his justice and ordinance and intelligence, there is no Qazi in his city, and all his lieges distinguish between truth and falsehood. Quoth the Caliph, How great is this king! His letter hath shown me this. And as for the mightiness of his dominion, thou hast told us what thou hast eyewitnessed. By Allah, he hath been endowed with wisdom, as with wide rule. And I'm getting nervous because I worry about them getting so envious and spiteful that the king in Al-Hind is wealthier than them, that they might decide to go to war on him and try and take all his wealth off him, because human beings are pathetic, verminous, WURM, demonic creatures of greed and corruption and selfishness and plunder. And I worry for the King Sarandib now. I worry. I'm worrying for an imaginary king. Oh, am I sweet? Who worries about me? No one. That's not true technically. There's a few people that do worry about me. But anyway, only because they're obsessed and it's not healthy either. So stop it now, for the love of all the gods. If you were really genuinely worried, you'd be with me, wouldn't you? You'd be making a commitment of heart, mind, body, soul and spirit to me, not this floundering around and by the side land. Mama T has spoken. I'm joking actually. I'm perfectly fine on my own. Don't worry about me. I can go either way, swinging between the chandeliers. It's true though. On a good day I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be lovely to have a wonderful man by my side who adores me. On a bad day, you can all fuck off. You're all completely useless to me. Not one of you has made a commitment. Not one of you is real. You're all just chances. So it can wax in between which part of the pendulum is swinging on any given day. Like the fucking sword of Damocles that slices you twice, both heads. I'm joking about that. I'm a very loving, kind, sweet woman, unless you cross me. But that's true of anyone, is it not? Ruth, dear goddess. Well, there was great sorrow when I was converting. My father-in-law was on. He was terminal with cancer and he was not far from his deathbed. So it was probably their idea of a joke, name me after the Moabite woman the great-grandmother of King David, and cast me with a curse of great sorrow for the rest of my Jewish life as well. Nasty. Now, I've only just found that out today of all days. Nasty. Oh, well, I'm a witch and a shaman. I have all the other gods lifting me up out of that morass of putrescence and evil and treachery and holding me high and cast me high as a warrior goddess in my own right, fighting and defending my fellow humans during the last 4 years. So there is that. So do I have to worry about that I was named for sorrow and remorse and rue and horror, tragedy and grief? No, I do not worry about that. I'll shuck it off. Ding! Carry on reading this wonderful story of the Arabian Nights. And my father-in-law loved me, by the way, so they didn't need to curse me with a negative fucking connotation like that. That's just mean. My father-in-law paid off not one but 2 houses to ensure my safety and financial security. He was a real man with real heart and a real soul, unlike that entity I married, his son, dear goddess. Anyway, then we mustn't think about that because it's ancient history now, isn't it? Smile into my still yet emanating future at my late stage of life, pushing 60, hoping against hope, true love and peace and comfort and ease and passion and romance with a man who adores me. And did I mention peace and whatever success we can manifest together as a loving couple? It's a fantasy. It's a barmecide. It's not real, people of Earth. Mama has to go back to bed and dream it off. Sleep it off. Anyway, where were we now? Then I related to the commander of the faithful all that had befallen me in my last voyage, at which he bade his historians record my story for the edification of all who might see it. Pardon me. Then he conferred on me exceeding great favours, and I repaired to my quarter and entered my home, where I need another drink of water, dear goddess, where I warehoused all my goods and possessions. Presently my friends came to me, and I distributed presents among my family, and gave alms and largesse, after which I yielded myself to joyance and enjoyment, mirth and merrymaking, and forgot all that I had suffered, which is basically what Mama T does every Friday night. Just tries to forget about the shit show and the horror of the last 59 and a fucking half years and wrest enjoyment out of what's left. And I make quite a display of myself, washing my neck wildly and triumphantly and gleefully. And what is the point of it really? Just the sheer enjoyment of it, I guess. The edification of my own soul, my own triumph and overcoming and defiance and willingness to continuously rejoice no matter what, no matter who, no matter when, for as long as I possibly can. Such then, O my brothers, is the history of what befell me in my 6th voyage, and tomorrow, inshallah, I will tell you the story of my 7th and last voyage, which is still more wondrous and marvellous than that of the first 6, saith he who telleth the tale. Then he bade lay the table, and the company supped with him, after which he gave the porter 100 dinars, as of wont, and they all went their ways, marvelling beyond measure at that which they had heard. When Sinbad the Sailor had related the history of what befell him in his 6th voyage, and all the company had dispersed, Sinbad the landsman went home and slept as of wont. Next day he rose and prayed the dawn prayer, and repaired to his namesake's house, where, after the company was all assembled, the host began to relate the 7th voyage of Sinbad the Sailor. We're at 1 hour and 55 minutes, so we have 1 hour of videoing left, but I think we might just make it if I read quickly and I don't do any segues. Babies. So then we can complete this entire Sinbad the Sailor story, and we can move on from that to some other story, and it's all going to be fabulous, darlings. Know, O company, John, that after my return from my 6th voyage, which brought me abundant profit, I resumed my former life in all possible joyance and enjoyment, and mirth, and making merry day and night. And I tarried some time in the solace and satisfaction, till my soul began once more to long to sail the seas, and see foreign countries, and company with merchants, and hear new things. Indeed, my darlings, indeed. So having made up my mind, I packed up in bales a quantity of precious stuffs suited for sea trade, and repaired with them from Baghdad city to Bassorah town, where I found a ship ready for sea, and in her a company of considerable merchants. I shipped with them, and becoming friends, we set forth on our venture in health and safety, and sailed with a fair wind till we came to a city called Madinat al-Sin. But after we had left it, as we fared on, in all cheer and confidence, devising of traffic and travel, behold, there sprang up a violent headwind, and a tempest of rain fell on us and drenched us and our goods. So we covered the bales with our cloaks and garments, and drugget and canvas, lest they be spoiled by the rain, and betook ourselves to prayer and supplication to Almighty Allah, and humbled ourselves before him for deliverance from the peril that was upon us. But the captain arose, and tightening his girdle, tucked up his skirts, and after taking refuge with Allah from Satan the stoned, clomb to the masthead, whence he looked out right and left, and gazing at the passengers and crew, fell to buffeting his face and plucking out his beard. So we cried to him, O Rais, what is the matter? And he replied, saying, Seek ye deliverance of the Most High from the strait into which we have fallen, and bemoan yourselves and take leave of one another, for know that the wind hath gotten the mastery of us, and hath driven us into the uttermost of the seas of the world. Then he came down from the masthead, and opening his sea chest, pulled out a bag of blue cotton, from which he took a powder like ashes. This he set in a saucer wetted with a little water, and after waiting a short time, smelt and tasted it. And then he took out of the chest a booklet, wherein he read a while, and said, weeping, Know, O ye passengers, that in this book is a marvellous matter, denoting that whoso cometh hither shall surely die, without hope of escape, for that this ocean is called the sea of the clime of the king, wherein is the sepulchre of our Lord Solomon, son of David, on both be peace. And therein are serpents of vast bulk and fearsome aspect, and what ship soever cometh to these climes, there ariseth to her a great fish out of the sea, and swalloweth her up with all and every one on board her. Hearing these words from the captain, great was our wonder, but hardly had he made an end of speaking, when the ship was lifted out of the water and let fall again, and we applied to praying the death prayer and committing our souls to Allah. Presently we heard a terrible great cry like the loud pealing thunder, whereat we were terror-struck and became as dead men, giving ourselves up for lost. Then behold, there came up to us a huge fish, as big as a tall mountain, at whose sight we became wild for affright, and, weeping sore, made ready for death, marvelling at its vast size and gruesome semblance, when lo, a second fish made its appearance, than which we had seen naught more monstrous. So we bemoaned ourselves of our lives and farewelled each other, but suddenly up came a third fish, bigger than the two first, whereupon we lost the power of thought and reason, and were stupefied for the excess of our fear and horror. Well, he will keep going on voyages, won't he? Like, hello, he hasn't had luck in any of the other 6 voyages until the end when he's murdered everything or been blessed by kings or whatever. I mean, he sort of lands on his feet at the end. But there's always some ghastly, heroic journey he gets cast into, isn't there? Wow, that's life, people of Earth. Be your own hero in your own journey and the king or queen of your own domain, and never ever let the bastards grind you down. Then the 3 fish began circling round about the ship, and the third and biggest opened his mouth to swallow it, and we looked into its mouth, and behold, it was wider than the gate of a city, and its throat was like a long valley. So we besought the Almighty and called for succour upon his apostle, on whom be blessing and peace, when suddenly a violent squall of wind arose and smote the ship, which rose out of the water and settled upon a great reef, the haunt of sea monsters, where it broke up and fell asunder into planks, and all and everything on board were plunged into the sea. As for me, I tore off all my clothes but my gown, and swam a little way, till I happened upon one of the ship's planks, whereto I clung and bestrode it like a horse, whilst the winds and the waters sported with me, and the waves carried me up and cast me down, and I was in a most piteous plight, for fear and distress and hunger and thirst. Then I reproached myself for what I had done, and my soul was weary after a life of ease and comfort, and I said to myself, O Sinbad, O sailor, thou repentest not, and yet thou art ever suffering hardships and travails. Yet wilt thou not renounce sea travel, or, and thou say, I renounce, thou liest in thy renouncement. Endure then with patience that which thou sufferest, for verily thou deservest all that betideth thee. I kind of agree with that. Had it good back home. Merry-making, being wild, being in joyance and delight with his family and friends, no doubt lovers as well. Ah, silly man, had to get the itchy feet and go wandering. But when I had bestridden the plank, quoth I to myself, Thou deservest all that betideth thee. All this is decreed to me of Allah, whose name be exalted, to turn me from my greed of gain, whence ariseth all that I endure, for I have wealth galore, people of earth. Then I returned to my senses and said, in very sooth, this time I repent to the Most High, with a sincere repentance of my lust for gain and venture, and never will I again name travel with tongue, nor in thought. And I ceased not to humble myself before Almighty Allah, and weep and bewail myself, recalling my former estate of solace and satisfaction and mirth and merriment and joyance. And thus I abode 2 days, at the end of which time I came to a great island abounding in trees and streams. There I landed, and ate of the fruits of the island, and drank of its waters, till I was refreshed, and my life returned to me, and my strength and spirits were restored, and I recited, oft when thy case shows knotty and tangled skein, fate downs from heaven, and straightens every ply. In patience keep thy soul, till clear thy lot, for he who ties the knot can eke untie. I like that. Spinning wool references there. Then I walked about till I found on the further side a great river of sweet water, running with a strong current, whereupon I called to mind the boat raft I had made aforetime, and said to myself, needs must I make another, haply I may free me from this strait. It's that young man and the skateboard being towed up the hill by an enormous Great Dane. It's actually quite hilarious. I should film him one day. Make him famous on YouTube. Haply I may free me from this strait. If I escape, I have my desire, and I vow to Allah Almighty to forswear travel, and if I perish I shall be at peace, and shall rest from toil and moil. So I rose up and gathered together great store of pieces of wood from the trees, which were all of the finest sanders wood, whose like is not, albeit I knew it not. Albeit I knew it not. And made shift to twist creepers and tree twigs into a kind of rope, with which I bound the billets together, and so contrived a raft. Then saying, and I be saved, 'tis of God's grace, I embarked thereon and committed myself to the current, and it bore me on for the first day, and the second day, and the third, after leaving the island, whilst I lay in the raft, eating not and drinking, when I was athirst of the water of the river, till I was weak and giddy as a chicken for stress of fatigue and famine and fear. At the end of this time I came to a high mountain, whereunder ran the river, from which when I saw, I feared for my life by reason of the straitness I had suffered in my former journey, and I would fain have stayed the raft and landed on the mountain side, but the current overpowered me, and drew it into the subterranean passage like an archway, whereupon I gave myself up for lost, and said, There is no majesty, and there is no might, save in Allah, the glorious, the great. However, after a little, the raft glided into open air, and I saw before me a wide valley, whereinto the river fell with a noise like the rolling of thunder, and a swiftness as the rushing of the wind. I held on to the raft for fear of falling off it, whilst the waves tossed me right and left, and the craft continued to descend with the current, nor could I avail to stop it, nor turn it shorewards, till it stopped with me at a great and goodly city, grandly edified, and containing much people. And when the townsfolk saw me on the raft, dropping down with the current, they threw me out ropes which I had not strength enough to hold. Then they tossed a net over the craft, and drew it ashore with me, whereupon I fell to the ground amidst them, as I were a dead man, for stress of fear and hunger and lack of sleep. After a while there came up to me out of the crowd an old man of reverend aspect, well stricken in years, who welcomed me and threw over me an abundance of handsome clothes, wherewith I covered my nakedness. Then he carried me to the hammam bath, and brought me cordial sherbets and delicious perfumes. Moreover, when I came out, he bore me to his house, where his people made much of me, and, seating me in a pleasant place, set rich food before me, whereof I ate my fill, and returned thanks to God the Most High for my deliverance. I like that he's always grateful to the Holy One, or in his faith he calls him Allah. But it shows respect and gratitude and honour, to the gods, to the multiverse, to source. I like that. It's always important to remember that we're just mere mortals and our very existence is at the capricious whims of some immense mind. Thereupon his pages fetched me hot water, and I washed my hands, and his handmaids brought me silken napkins, with which I dried them and wiped my mouth. Also the sheikh set apart for me an apartment in a part of his house, and charged his pages and slave girls to wait upon me and do my will and supply my wants. They were assiduous in my service, and I abode with him in the guest chamber 3 days, taking my ease of good eating and good drinking and good sense, till life returned to me, and my terrors subsided, and my heart was calmed, and my mind was eased. On the 4th day the sheikh, my host, came in to me and said, Thou cheerest us with thy company, O my son, and praised be Allah for thy safety. Say, wilt thou now come down with me to the beach and the bazaar, and sell thy goods, and take their price? Belike thou mayest buy thee wherewithal to traffic. I have ordered my servants to remove thy stock and trade from the sea, and they have piled it on the shore. I was silent a while and said to myself, What mean these words, and what goods have I? Then said he, O my son, Be not troubled nor careful, but come with me to the market, and if any offer for thy goods what price contenteth thee, take it. But, an thou be not satisfied, I will lay them up for thee in my warehouse, against a fitting occasion for sale. So I bethought me of my case, and said to myself, do his bidding, and see what are these goods. And I said to him, O mine uncle, the Sheikh, I hear and I obey. I cannot gainsay thee in aught, for Allah's blessings on all thou dost. Accordingly, he guided me to the market street, where I found that he had taken in pieces the raft which carried me, and which was of sandalwood, and I heard the broker calling it for sale. I found that the Sheikh had taken to pieces my raft which lay on the beach, and the broker was crying for sandalwood for sale. Then the merchants came and opened the gate of bidding for the wood, and bid against one another till its price reached 1,000 dinars, when they left bidding. And my host said to me, Hear, O my son, this is the current price of thy goods in hard times like these. Wilt thou sell them for this, or shall I lay them up for thee in my storehouses, till such time as prices rise? O my lord, answered I, the business is in thy hands. Do as thou wilt. Then asked he, Wilt thou sell the wood to me, O my son, for 100 gold pieces over and above what the merchants have bidden for it? And I answered, Yes, I have sold it to thee for monies received. So he bade the servants transport the wood to his storehouses, and carrying me back to his house, seated me and counted out to me the purchase money, after which he laid it in bags, and setting them in a privy place, locked them up with an iron padlock, and gave me its key. Some days after this the Sheikh said to me, O my son, I have somewhat to propose to thee, wherein I trust thou wilt do my bidding. Quoth I, What is it? Quoth he, I am a very old man, and have no son, but I have a daughter who is young in years and fair of favour and endowed with abounding wealth and beauty. Now I have a mind to marry her to thee, that thou mayest abide with her in this our country, and I will make thee master of all I have in hand, for I am an old man, and thou shalt stand in my stead. I was silent for shame and made him no answer. Whereupon he continued, Do my desire in this, O my son, for I wish but thy weal, and if thou wilt but do as I say, thou shalt have her at once, and be as my son. And all that is under my hand, or that cometh to me, shall be thine. If thou have a mind to traffic and travel to thy native land, none shall hinder thee, and thy property will be at thy sole disposal. So do as thou wilt. By Allah, O my uncle, replied I, thou art become to me even as my father, and I am a stranger, and have undergone many hardships, while for stress of that which I have suffered, naught of judgment or knowledge is left to me. It is for thee, therefore, to decide what I shall do. Handing his fate over to him very trustingly. Hereupon he sent his servants for the Qazi and the witnesses, and married me to his daughter, making us for a noble marriage feast and high festival. When I went into her, I found her perfect in beauty and loveliness and symmetry and grace, clad in rich raiment and covered with a profusion of ornaments and necklaces and other trinkets of gold and silver and precious stones, worth a mint of money, a price none could pay. She pleased me, and we loved each other, and I abode with her in solace and delight of life, till her father was taken to the mercy of Allah Almighty. So we shrouded him and buried him, and I laid hands on the whole of his property, and all his servants and slaves became mine. Moreover, the merchants installed me in his office, for he was their sheikh and their chief, and none of them purchased aught but with his knowledge and by his leave. And now his rank passed on to me. When I became acquainted with the townsfolk, I found that at the beginning of each month they were transformed, and that their faces changed, and they became like birds, and they put forth wings wherewith they flew into the upper regions of the firmament, and none remained in the cities save the women and children. And I said in my mind, when the first of the month cometh, I will ask one of them to carry me with them whither they go. So when the time came and their complexion changed and their forms altered, I went into one of the townsfolk and said to him, Allah upon thee, carry me with thee, that I might divert myself with the rest and return with you. This may not be, answered he. But I ceased not to solicit him, and I importuned him till he consented. Then I went out in his company without telling any of my family or servants or friends, and he took me on his back and flew up with me so high in air that I heard the angels glorifying God in the heavenly dome, whereat I wondered and exclaimed, Praise be Allah, extolled be the perfection of Allah. Hardly had I made an end of pronouncing the tasbih, praise be Allah, when there came out a fire from heaven, and all but consumed the company, whereupon they fled from it, and descended with curses upon me, and casting me down on a high mountain, went away, exceeding wrath with me, and left me there alone. As I found myself in this plight, I repented of what I had done, and reproached myself for having undertaken that for which I was unable, saying, There is no majesty, and there is no might, save in Allah, the glorious, the great. No sooner am I delivered from one affliction than I fall into a worse. I know how that feels, babies. Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. Fortunately, it wasn't 7 voyages, though. And it all happened in alleged peacetime in Brisbane, Australia. And I could go on, but I won't, because I'm rising above that morass of evil. And I continued in this case, knowing not whither I should go, when, lo, there came up 2 men as they were moons, each using as a staff a rod of red gold. So I approached them and saluted them, and when they returned my salam, I said to them, Allah upon you twain, who are ye, and what are ye? Quoth they, We are of the servants of the Most High Allah, abiding in this mountain, and, giving me a rod of red gold they had with them, went their ways and left me. I walked on along the mountain ridge, staying my steps with the staff and pondering the case of the 2 youths, when behold, a serpent came forth from under the mountain, with a man in her jaws, whom she had swallowed even to below his navel. And he was crying out and saying, Whoso delivereth me, Allah will deliver him from all adversity. So I went up to the serpent and smote her on the head with the golden staff, whereupon she cast the man forth of her mouth. When I smote the serpent on the head with my golden staff, she cast the man forth of her mouth. He repeats that for emphasis, people of earth. Then I smote her a second time, and she turned and fled, whereupon he came up to me and said, Since my deliverance from yonder serpent hath been at thy hands, I will never leave thee, and thou shalt be my comrade on this mountain. Hope he's not boring. And welcome, answered I. So we fared on along the mountain, till we fell in with a company of folk, and I looked and saw amongst them the very man who had carried me and cast me down there. I went up to him and spake him fair, excusing myself to him and say, O my comrade, it is not thus that friend should deal with friend. Quoth he, pardon me, it was thou who well nigh destroyed us by thy tasbih, and thy glorifying God on my back. Quoth I, pardon me, for I had no knowledge of this matter, but if thou wilt take me with thee, I swear not to say a word. So he relented and consented to carry me with him, but he made an express condition that so long as I abode on his back, I should abstain from pronouncing the tasbih or otherwise glorifying God. Then I gave the wand of gold to him whom I had delivered from the serpent, and bade him farewell. And my friend took me on his back and flew with me. Did you pull another feather, you little demon bird? Yes, she did. Look at this. That's 3 today. 3 big feathers. This is the 3rd. But there are other little tiny ones as well. So technically there were more than 3, but it's a Charlie thing. What can we do? It's Charlie. My friend took me on his back and flew with me as before till he brought me to the city and set me down in my own house. My wife came to meet me and saluting me, gave me joy of my safety, and then said, Beware of going forth hereafter with yonder folk, neither consort with them, for they are brethren of the devils, and know not how to mention the name of Allah Almighty, neither worship they him. And how did thy father with them? Asked I, and she answered, My father was not of them, neither did he as they. And as now he is dead, methinks thou hadst better sell all we have, and with the price buy merchandise, and journey to thine own country and people, and I with thee, for I care not to tarry in this city, my father and my mother being dead. So I sold all the Sheikh's property piecemeal and looked for one who should be journeying thence to Bassorah, that I might join myself to him. And while thus doing, I heard of a company of townsfolk who had a mind to make the voyage, but could not find them a ship. So they bought wood and built them a great ship, wherein I took passage with them and paid them all the hire. Then we embarked, I and my wife, with all our movables, leaving our houses and domains and so forth, and set sail and ceased not sailing from island to island and sea to sea with a fair wind and a favouring, till we arrived at Bassorah safe and sound. I made no stay there, but freighted another vessel, and transferring my goods to her, set out forthright for Baghdad city, where I arrived in safety, and entering my quarter and repairing to my house, foregathered with my family and friends and familiars who laid up my goods in my warehouses. When my people, who, reckoning the period of my absence on this my 7th voyage, had found it to be 27 years, and had given up all hope of me, heard of my return, they came to welcome me and to give me joy of my safety. And I related to them all that had befallen me, whereat they marvelled with exceeding marvel. Then I forswore travel, and vowed to Allah the Most High, I would venture no more by land or sea, for that the 7th and last voyage had surfeited me of travel and adventure. And I thanked the Lord, be he praised and glorified, and blessed him for having restored me to my kith and kin and country. And hi. Consider therefore, O Sinbad, O landsman, continued Sinbad the Sailor, what sufferings I have undergone and what perils and hardships I have endured before coming to my present state. Allah upon thee, O my Lord, answered Sinbad the landsman, pardon me the wrong I did thee. And they ceased not from friendship and fellowship, abiding in all cheer and pleasures and solace of life, till there came to them the destroyer of delights, and the sunderer of societies, and the shatterer of palaces, and the caterer for cemeteries, to wit, the cup of death. And glory be to the living one, who dieth not. Know, O my brothers and friends and companions all, that when I left voyaging and commercing, I said in myself, sufficeth me that hath befallen me, and I spent my time in solace and pleasure. One day as I sat at home, there came a knock at the door, and when the porter opened, a page entered and said, the Caliph biddeth thee to him. I went with him to the king's majesty, and kissed ground and saluted him, whereupon he welcomed me and entreated me with honour, and said, O Sinbad, I have an occasion for thee, wilt thou do it? So I kissed his hand and asked him, saying, O my lord, what occasion hath the master for the slave? Whereto he answered me, I am minded that thou travel to the king of Sarandib, and carry to him our writ and our gift, for that he hath sent to us a present and a letter. I trembled at these words and rejoined, by Allah the Omnipotent, O my Lord, I have taken a loathing to wayfare, and when I hear the words voyage or travel, my limbs tremble for what hath befallen me of hardships and horrors. Indeed, I have no desire whatever for this, more by token as I have bound myself by oath not to quit Baghdad. Then I informed the Caliph of all I had passed through from first and last, and he marvelled with exceeding marvel, and said, by the Almighty, O Sinbad, from ages of old such mishaps as happened to thee were never known to happen to any, and thou dost only right never even to talk of travel. For our sake, however, thou wilt go this time and carry our present and our letter to him of Sarandib, and inshallah, by God's leave, thou shalt return quickly. And on this wise we shall be under no obligation to the said king. I replied that I heard and obeyed, being unable to oppose his command. So he gave me the gifts, excuse me, and the missive with money to pay my way, and I kissed hands and left the presence. Then I dropped down from Baghdad to the Gulf, and with other merchants embarked, and our ship sailed before a fair wind many days and nights, till by Allah's aid we reached the island of Sarandib. As soon as we had made fast, we landed, and I took the present and the letter, and going in with them to the king, kissed ground before him. When he saw me, he said, "Well, come, O Sinbad, by Allah omnipotent, we were longing to see thee, and glory be to God who hath again shown us thy face." Then taking me by the hand, he made me sit by his side, rejoicing, and he welcomed me with familiar kindness again and entreated me as a friend. After this he began to converse with me and courteously addressed me, and asked, "What was the cause of thy coming to us, O Sinbad?" So, after kissing his hand and thanking him, I answered, "O my lord, I have brought thee a present from my master, the Caliph Harun al-Rashid," and offered him the present and the letter, which he read, and at which he rejoiced with passing joy. The present consisted of a mare worth 10,000 ducats, bearing a golden saddle set with jewels, a book, a sumptuous suit of clothes, and 100 different kinds of white, careen cloths and silks of Suez, Kufa, and Alexandria, Greek carpets, and 100 morns' weight of linen and raw silk. Moreover, there was a wondrous rarity, a marvellous cup of crystal, middlemost of which was the figure of a lion, faced by a kneeling man, grasping a bow with arrow drawn to the very head, together with the food tray, of Suleiman, the son of David, on whom be peace. The missive ran as follows: "Peace from King al-Rashid, the aided of Allah, who hath vouchsafed to him and his forefathers noble rank and widespread glory, be on the fortunate Sultan. But after thy letter came to our hands, and we rejoiced thereat, and we have sent the book entitled Delight of the Intelligent, and for friends the rare present, together with sundry curiosities suitable for kings. So do thou favour us by accepting them, and peace be with thee." Then the king lavished upon me much wealth, and entreated me with all honour, so I prayed for him and thanked him for his munificence. Some days after I craved his leave to depart, but could not obtain it except by great pressing, whereupon I farewelled him and fared forth from his city, with merchants and other companions, homewards bound without any desire for travel or trade. We continued voyaging and coasting along many islands, but when we were halfway, we were surrounded by a number of canoes, wherein were men like devils armed with bows and arrows, swords and daggers, habited in mail coats and other armoury. Vikings? They fell upon us and wounded and slew all who opposed them. Then, having captured the ship and her contents, carried us to an island where they sold us at the meanest price. Now I was bought by a wealthy man who, taking me to his house, gave me meat and drink and clothing, and treated me in the friendliest manner, so I was heartened, and I rested a little. One day he asked me, "Dost thou know any art or craft?" And I answered him, "O my lord, I am a merchant, and know nothing but trade and traffic." "Dost thou know," rejoined he, "how to use bow and arrow?" "Yes," replied I know that much." Thereupon he brought me a bow and arrows, and mounted me behind him upon an elephant. Then he set out as night is well nigh over, and passing through a forest of huge growths, came to a tall and sturdy tree, up which he made me climb. Then he gave me the bow and arrows, saying, "Sit here now, and when the elephants troop hither in early morning, shoot at them, belike thou wilt hit one, and if he fall, Come and tell me." With this he left me. I hid myself in the tree, being in sore terror, and trembled till the sun arose. And when the elephants appeared and wandered about among the trees, I shot my arrows at them and continued till I had shot down one of them. In the evening I reported my success to my master, who was delighted in me and entreated me with high honour, and next morning he removed the slain elephant. In this wise I continued every morning shooting an elephant, which my master would remove, till one day, as I was perched and hiding on the tree, there came on suddenly and unexpectedly an innumerable host of elephants, whose screaming and trumpeting was such that I imagined the earth trembled under them. All surrounded my tree, whose circumference was some 50 cubits, and one enormous monster came up to it and, winding his trunk round the bole, held it up by the roots and dashed it to the ground. I fell down fainting amongst the beasts, when the monster elephant wound his trunk about me, and, setting me on his back, went off with me, the others accompanying us. He carried me till still unconscious, till he reached the place for which he was making, when he rolled me off his back and presently went his ways, followed by the others. So I rested a little, and when my terror had subsided I looked about me, and I found myself among the bones of elephants, whereby I concluded that this was their burial place, and that the monster elephant had led me thither on account of the tusks. So I arose and walked a whole day and night till I arrived at the house of my master, who saw my colour changed by stress of affright and famine. He rejoiced in my return and said to me, "By Allah, thou hast made my heart sore. I went when thou wast missing, and found the tree torn up, and thought that the elephants had slain thee. Tell me how it was with thee." I acquainted him with all that had betided me, whereat he wondered greatly and rejoiced, and at last asked me, "Dost thou know the place?" Whereto I answered, "Yes, O my master." So we mounted an elephant and fared till we came to the spot, and when my master beheld the heaps of tusks, he rejoiced greatly. Then, carrying away as many as he wanted, he returned with me home. After this he entreated me with increased favour, and said, "O my son, thou hast shown us the way to great gain, wherefore Allah requite thee. Thou art freed for the Almighty's sake, and before his face. The elephants used to destroy many of us on account of our hunting them for their ivories and sorovellos. But Allah," sorry, I have to know what a sorovello is. Doesn't say, it just references the actual passage in this text. It's also close to a surname in Italian. But I want to know what it means. Tell me what it means. Marvellous? Well, anyway, frustrating. I mean, we know what ivories are. I'm very fond of ivory, actually. I would never kill an elephant for its ivory, but any ivory that's still out there in the marketplace that's antique, I'm not opposed to buying, because the animal died long ago, and but fresh ivory, no, that would be awful. That would be really awful. But how they found it here in the burial ground of elephants, it's not so bad, because died, they were already had died of their own natural lifetime, and then that's not quite so bad. Anyway, I've lost my place now, people of Earth, and I've got to quickly finish the story, running out of time. Dear Goddess. On account of our hunting them for their ivories and sorrovellos, the elephants used to destroy them. But Allah hath preserved thee from them, and thou hast profited us by the heaps to which thou hast led us. O my master, replied I, God free thy neck from the fire, and do thou grant me, O my master, by gracious leave to return to my own country. Yes, quoth he, thou shalt have that permission. But we have a yearly fair, when merchants come to us from various quarters to buy up these ivories. The time is drawing near, and when they shall have done their business, I will send thee under their charge, and will send thee wherewithal to reach thy home. So I blessed and thanked him, and remained with him, treated with respect and honour for some days, when the merchants came, as he had foretold, and bought and sold and bartered. And when they had made their preparations to return, my master came to me and said, Rise and get thee ready to travel with the traders en route to thy country. They had bought a number of tusks, which they had bound together in loads, and were embarking them, when my master sent me with them. Paying for my passage and settling all my debts, besides which he gave me a large present in goods. We set out and voyaged from island to island till we had crossed the sea and landed on the shores of the Persian Gulf, when the merchants brought out and sold their stores. I also sold what I had at a high profit. I bought none of the prettiest things in the place for presents and beautiful rarities, I bought some, dear Goddess, of the prettiest things in the place for presents and beautiful rarities, and everything else I wanted. I likewise bought for myself a beast, and we fared forth and crossed the deserts from country to country, till I reached Baghdad. Here I went in to the Caliph, and after saluting him and kissing hands, informed him of all that had befallen me, whereupon he rejoiced in my safety and thanked Almighty Allah, and he bade my story be written in letters of gold. Can't see it because it's dark in here now, but gold. I then entered my house and met my family and brethren, and such is the end of the history that happened to me during my 7 voyages. Praise be to Allah, the One, the Creator, the Maker of all things in heaven and earth. According to the Abrahamic religions, that is. I know. Well, let's be fair. I'm a Jew originally. It's an Abrahamic religion. But, I'm also a universalist, and I give honour and grace and blessing to all the gods across all cultures and mythologies, because ultimately it's all one. It becomes all one great big giant crystal, shining all refractions of its own glory. Amen. Salah. And Scheherazade perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Said the king in himself, By Allah, I will not slay her until I hear her next story. They rested that night in mutual embrace until dawn. Then the king went forth to his darbar. The wazirs and troops came in, and the audience hall was crowded. So the king gave orders, and judged and appointed, and deposed, and bade and forbade the rest of that day. When the court broke up, and King Shahyar entered his palace, upon which Scheherazade began the tale of Prince Saif al Muluk or Malak. Saif al-Malak, Saif al-Malak or Muluk? Malak. I don't know why I decided on Malak, but it sounds better. So that is the next story, and there goes my iPhone, it's not damaged. That's the next story. There's many more stories to go, but I may choose not to continue for a while, read other stories. I'll see how I feel. But wherever you are in the space-time continuum, here on planet Earth or in the known cosmos, I bid you good evening. It is now 6:53 p.m. on the 3rd of December 2024, Brisbane, Australia time. So I bid you good evening and peace be upon you wherever you are, all interdimensional entities and all sentient beings here on planet Earth. Peace be upon us all, as above so below. Let there be love in all echelons, dimensions, places and spaces of the highest form, and may we all merit to have a life of peace and blessings, comfort and ease with our true beloveds by our side. So may it be. Good evening and good night.